Well, hello there, and welcome to your weekly briefing for Global Conflict 1. Today I will be covering days 32 to 38 and documenting the various political changes that have occurred within the world during that time frame. So, starting off, I think we should just get the big news out of the way. As was expected, House 19 did go to war with House 9, and we saw the beginnings of that last week with House 19's push into Scandinavia. Now, what is very interesting about this is it very much fractured the alliance between House 9 and House 14. It seemed House 9 and 14 together, they weren't the tightest knit of alliances, although they definitely were on the same page. They were somewhat indecisive when it came to declaring on House 19. So what you had was House 19, they pushed into Scandinavia, pretty much throughout the House 14 overseers, which led to the House 14 House Marshal dropping House. And this really accelerated the decline of House 14. If you look at the map currently, House 14 is all but gone. There is no House 14 anymore, and that goes along with House 16. So there have been quite a few big changes in the past week, so I will try to get to that in depth, but first I'm going to start, like I usually do, upper left of the map. So in this area, we still have House 2, and they are still sister houses with House 7. Last week I mentioned that there might be tensions between the two, but any tensions seem to have been resolved, and they're still sister houses, so everything's good on that end. And maybe if there was conflict over land, with House 7 pushing into Europe, that gave them objectives besides squabbling among themselves over North America. And after House 3 pretty much got thrown out of Egypt, it seems they may have cultivated an alliance now with House 2 and House 7, as the House Marshal has recently moved up to Canada, which sort of bolsters that information. So there's definitely a possible alliance now between the House 2, House 7 alliance and House 3. I really can't draw a line to House 3 because they literally control nothing on this area of the map, so I'm sorry about that. But getting back to North America, we still have probably an alliance between House 15 and House 2. They seem to be on very good terms, and of course House 18 is still House 15's sister house, and they and House 15 and House 18 and House 15 are both taking territory and land now in North Africa, which brings us to another important point, and that is that as of this moment, House 15 is currently fighting House 1. So it seems like House 1 just skips from one conflict to another. You may remember that House 1 was fighting House 3 for the past 3 weeks or so, if I recall correctly. So I don't know all that went down, but as you can see, Sudan in Africa, which used to be in House 3 hands, has flipped to House 15, so that might have accelerated the tensions between House 1 and House 15. Essentially what you have here, or at least what it looks like, is House 15 taking over counties that used to be House 3, probably on good terms with House 3, as we saw there was talk of an alliance between at least House 2 and 7 and House 3. So it looks like they're all cozy, and most likely that accelerated the tensions between House 1 and House 15, leading up to this inevitable conflict. And it's interesting that there are a couple of small playing houses on this map. House 11 is another good example of that. Houses that really hold their own despite the very small amount of land they actually occupy. So moving over to South America. Now, in the last week, I pointed out that it seemed House 10 really wasn't ready to commit to an alliance this early in the game. Well, that has since changed, and House 10 joined with House 9 in a super alliance that was completed shortly before House 19 declared war on House 9. So essentially what you have now is House 10 and House 9, and whatever is left, of course, of House 14 and 6, all fighting House 19 and their allies, and I'll get to their allies in a minute or two. But first, I would like to focus a bit more on what's going on in Africa, because it's important. There's a lot of territory that has changed hands in the past week. Now, 7 days ago, there was still a good amount of House 16 in Africa. It wasn't a whole lot, but there was still House 16 in that country. There is currently no House 16, and it appears most of the former House 16 players that were in Africa have moved over to the House 17 alliance. So you can see a lot of the countries there that were former House 16 are either, House 15, House 9, or House 17. And last week, a lot of them were green, but it seems like those green counties have since joined officially with House 17. And House 4, green, is part of the House 17 alliance. Of course, as usual, I'm simply going with the largest house when it comes to alliances like this. When it comes to the House 9, House 10 alliance, I'm not going to... I think they're both major players, and it really does a disservice to either of them if I refer to them as a collective. So when I'm mentioning that alliance, I'll attempt to do my best to mention both of them. So that pretty much brings us back to House 9 and how exactly this all went down. A couple of days after I finished last week's video, the 30-day NAP that House 9 and House 19 signed were of course up, and that was the NAP that was holding House 9 back from defending their allies, House 14, when House 14 was attacked by House 19 up there in Scandinavia. So that was a big source of conflict, was this NAP that apparently House 9 didn't or wasn't interested in violating, because you really don't want to go back on your word. It's interesting that, you know, you would consider them as at least allies, if not sister houses, that they would have the same NAP, but apparently they didn't, or nobody was willing to respect it. I've heard stories from both sides that not only was House 9 a little bit belligerent and flippant in their dealings with other houses, but that House 19 was quite willing to ignore NAPs signed and continually moved their players into House 9 and House 14 territories, especially House 14 territories, which accumulated in the flipping of Scandinavia and the ousting of the former House 14 HM. So once those 30 days were up and that pressure was finally applied, it would seem that there is an all-out war between House 19 and House 9 and 10. Now I know this might be a bit scrambled. It seems like I'm doing things helter-skelter here. But House 9 at the same time is fighting House 11. So that problem, it hasn't been resolved yet, and it's really draining on a lot of House 9's good players. If House 9 really hopes to... If House 9 even wants to retain the territory that they currently hold, they're going to have to start consolidating some of their conflicts. They need to decide where they really want to focus their power, their strength, because fighting House 11 right in the middle of their territory and House 19 and House 19's allies at the same time is simply not practical, even with the somewhat help of House 10. From what I've been hearing, House 10 hasn't been all that helpful, with the exception of the current House 10 players in the Iberian Peninsula, and they're getting hit very hard. So it looks like House 10 themselves want to pull their horns in, so to speak, and move a lot of those players on the Iberian Peninsula back to South America. Personally, I don't think that's a great strategy, because if you have the Iberian Peninsula here, that is a great launching pad for moving into Europe. If you get rid of that, you're going to have to launch long-range attacks or actually move some of your players into House 9 territory, and that really never does good for relationships between houses. When parishes can actually be friendly contested between houses, there really is no need for that if you could hold on to territory that might otherwise be lost. So I would like to see House 10 fortify that rather than lose it, but that's just my opinion on what they should do. Nobody really cares about my opinion because I'm just a noob farmer. What is also interesting about the war that broke out between House 19 and House 9 is not only was the HM of House 14 ousted, but the HM of House 9 quit as well. So as you can see here, China has now flipped to House 19. The former general of House 9, Eurus, or Juris, I'm not sure how he pronounces that, left House 9 once House 19 officially declared war, and went ahead and joined House 19, which is a great blow to morale for House 9. I mean, there is no bigger slap in the face when it comes to political alliances than when, a House Marshal, we're not even talking faction generals or officers, but a House Marshal, the player who is in charge of leading the House, not only drops House when the going gets a little bit tough, but actually joins the enemy that just declared war on you. That is just devastating to House morale. And I've seen players go turncoat before, but never to that extent. And given the prominence of this global conflict server, that is really just devastating for House 9. And couple that, so House 9, their alliance, House 9, House 14, House 6, that alliance has already lost 2 House Marshals since House 19 declared war on them. So that's a very big blow to them. And if House 10 really hadn't come to their aid at all, yeah, I think we'd be seeing House 9 fold. Yes, I'm sure there are good players in House 9, don't get me wrong, but they can't control what they control now, given the size of House 19. They're going to be overwhelmed by sheer force of numbers, and for some reason, House 9 insists on continuing to fight House 11, which isn't helping them at all. So let's just briefly recap what exactly the House 19 alliance is comprised of, because I've mentioned House 19 quite a bit, and you can see they own a good deal of territory on the map. But House 19, their alliance, comprises a few other houses, including House 5, House 8, and of course House 13. In other episodes, I mentioned that House 1 might be allied with them, but it really doesn't look like that's the case, because House 1 continues to fight wars that House 19 simply doesn't care about. They never get involved in, so I've never really heard much from any players who actually are playing in House 19. So they're a very secretive house, and they're not very open with their information, which is why I really don't know as much when it comes to any potential alliances between the players that make up their alliance. But House 1, very early on in the game, I was told they were allied with House 19, but that simply doesn't seem to be the case anymore. As I pointed out, they continue to fight in wars with other houses, and yet House 19 never gets involved. It's almost as if they don't care, and when that happens, you really couldn't call that an alliance, because the essence of what an alliance is you work together and defend each other, essentially, when stuff like that happens. So yeah, I'm cutting House 1 out of that alliance. So you still have House 19, you have House 5, and you have House 8, and whatever is left of House 13. And the House 13 thing is interesting because they used to control the whole of Japan, but now House 16 from Germany and Central Africa is largely controlling Japan. And that brings us down to Australia. Now House 17 continues to grow in dominance of this world. They control more and more political power on this map, especially as a lot of former House 16 players have since joined the House 17 alliance with the collapse of House 16, and it would actually appear that House 16 is now in the control of House 17. So pretty much all of those players that were formerly House 16 have either joined the House 17 alliance or have flipped to House 12 up here in Europe and seem to be going it on their own. I haven't heard an update on the House 12 fight that's going on with House 7. I don't know if that's still a thing, but from what I can tell, they're much like House 1 in that they're pretty much going on their own. Well, House 1 and House 11, in that they're pretty much doing what they are doing on their own and don't really seem to be fighting in any of the bigger alliances or even willing to make a deal with bigger alliances like that. If I'm wrong, if anybody knows the diplomatic status of either House 1 or House 12, do feel free to let me know sometime in the future so I can correct that. So yeah, House 17 continues to grab more political power on the map, considering that they actually have a few houses in their alliance, and that reminds me I should list the ones I have. So from the past we knew that House 17 was sister houses with House 4, and at least allies with House 20. And that still stands, but now it looks as if they've brought House 16 on board as well. I'm not sure if that's a sister house or just an ally, but given the fact that House 17 actually allowed House 16 right inside Australia, their home base, I guess you could consider it, I'm leaning sort of towards sister house. That really imparts a lot of trust to even let an ally move into your country and take over a province like that. So yeah, that's the House 17 alliance. And what's interesting about House 17 is they're not getting involved in the war currently with House 19 and House 9 either. And they're going to have to eventually, I think, because House 9 is not going to be able to really hold off House 19 and company on its own. Even with House 10 coming to its aid, it doesn't seem that House 10 really wants to fight quite yet. And of course, House 15 is currently fighting House 1, so they sort of have their own thing going on. House 2 might be a candidate if they decide that they and House 7 are going to start pushing from the UK, because that's certainly a possibility. Currently, House 7, which is part of the Canadian House 2, House 7 alliance, they currently own Scotland, so they have a launching base, so they could pretty much strike right into Europe. Well, what am I saying? They actually own a couple of counties in France right there. So they're optimally poised to actually start pushing into the House 9 alliance, but it seems that nothing official has been announced yet, so I can't do anything more other than speculate on what potential that could hold in the future. So I must say, there you pretty much have it for this week. The big news, of course, was House 19 finally declared war on House 9. House 14 was pretty much destroyed, as was House 16. 2 House Marshals actually quit their houses after being pressured by House 19, one of them actually joining House 19. Like I said before, that is what I would consider one of the greatest diplomatic faux pas in Stronghold Kingdoms. So a lot of interesting stuff this week. Who knows what the future might bring if the North American houses get involved with the House 19 Russian houses. Could be interesting. Otherwise, I think the future looks a bit pessimistic for House 9. As always, if you have any information relating to diplomatic happenings around the world, I would love to hear from you. Simply mail me in-game. My name is David Spy. That is one word. I look forward to hearing from you, and as always, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.
Stronghold Kingdoms. What will you fight for? Play now for free.